Mike Sheeder. I own and run the Intensity 37 Gamefisherman in Guatemala.
I'm Jim Turner. I'm sitting here at Sailfish Marina in Palm Beach, and I used to own the Intensity, and I started I started Release Boatworks I started Release Boatworks in Guatemala.
Actually,
and after
yeah.
a year moved it to Miami, and now we're building boats in Egg Harbor City, New Jersey. Other than the Intensity, I own 2 other game fishermen. So very proud to be representing.
I met Jim Turner, I believe it was 15 years ago when he hired me. My brother and him started Costa Rica Lodge, and they brought over a bunch of boats. Probably my brother helped out getting me to get the job, so he brought me over. I believe I committed to 1 year of fishing, and 1 year turned into 15 years, and I believe a couple of years later I bought the Intensity from Jim Turner, and here we are. Long time good fishing in one of the best places in the world.
Started over there with a little boat called Release, and had some great fish on that boat, and had the opportunity to get the Intensity, which was actually at the time located in Esmeralda,
Ecuador, right?
Ecuador, yeah.
Yeah.
It was sent down to be a charter boat in the Galapagos.
Galapagos, right.
And we rescued her literally from there, ran her up to Guatemala. And
That's right.
I asked Mike's brother Chris, "Are we going to get to run this thing?" And Chris said, "I think my brother will run it." I said, "Okay, bring him on." And yeah, 15 years ago.
That was 15 years ago.
And it wasn't long after that I sold the boat. Actually, we became partners in the boat.
Right, we became partners. That's right, for a year or two, and then I bought you out a little bit.
Yeah,
that was probably over a few rum drinks.
Yes,
Yeah.
That's why I said. And here we are again with rum drinks.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I mean, it was basically perfect for what it does. It runs charters in Central America, and it was built to do that. Maneuverability, fishability, it's got the fishy title where it raises fish, but it's super maneuverable. It's very seaworthy. And it's perfect for fly fishing, which we do a lot of. You want to be maneuverable, get on top of the fish, back down hard, spin the boat. So it's basically perfect for charter fishing in Central America.
Big cockpit. That's I think a big part of the
big cockpit
allure of the boat. We have a typical charter might be four clients, 4 anglers, and we have 2 mates. We've always had 2 mates on the boat.
The cabin's open, so you can basically be sitting, laying down, and within seconds or a half a second, you're in the cockpit.
3 steps, and you're at the rod.
Right.
Perfectly up.
It's the way it should be. When you got that kind of action, you need to be in the pit. So whether you're in it or not, you need to get there quickly.
No step going into the cabin to trip over.
Right.
Coming in or going out.
Jim repowered it. I think that's where
when we originally got the boat, it had old
Volvos, right? Big heavy Volvos.
And a lot of the game fishermen, that was the motor of choice back then. And it was, gosh, we had a lot of hours on that boat.
I think I babied it that first year, and we sat down and made a decision on to repower it.
But I would bet that boat had 20,000 hours on it when we got it. And it had been, it's a wet sleeved engine, so we were able to rebuild it a couple times. That boat, the Intensity, ended up running aground, I think, 3 times. before before we had back in the old fins and feathers days.
Not with me. Not me. I never ran it aground.
Back in the old fins and feathers days, the inlet was called the Barra del Muerte, which meant roughly translates to inlet of death. And we would have to sit out front. Coming back in at the end of the day, we'd sit out front. You had to count the sets, because even though it's flat calm, you had this huge Pacific swell. So, I know. I think two of the previous captains that ran it, they were probably limping on one engine, and they had to sit there and count the sets and then basically floor it.
Right.
And when you got inside the inlet, you had to immediately turn
left and make a big wide turn.
Yeah, you had to go around the inlet
They probably didn't turn very quickly. Yeah.
Well, I think that they did something coming in the inlet and they were actually sinking.
Oh.
So they purposely ran up on the sandbar.
That might be. I did hear a story from one of the mechanics that it ran up and it threw the strut into the hole.
Yeah.
And then they repaired it after that. But luckily you run aground. If you sink and you run aground, that's actually a good thing.
Yes.
So.
Yes. I remember one time they had to get a crane to lift the boat off of the rocks in that inlet, a 31 Bertram. Pretty sure that was the Classic.
Yeah.
And I think it was the same guy that put it up on the rocks that put the intensity on the on the sandbar there. So there might be a pattern there.
In the last 15 years, the boat's never run aground or sank. I can contest to that.
No,
Yeah.
It was probably 12, 13 years ago that we decided to repower it and put Cummins 450Cs
Right.
in there, and it's
Very, very reliable.
efficient,
I mean,
clean burning.
parts, easy to get, accessible, easy to change pumps and do an overhaul. Overhauls, I don't want to say simple, but as far as overhauls go, wet sleeves are.
And one of the things that we
good.
had, Guatemala, we don't have the quality of fuel that we have here in the States, so it has to be able to run really high sulfur fuel, and who knows what else is in there besides sulfur. Plenty of water too.
Machine shops and stuff like that aren't of the standard of in the U.S.
Yeah.
So you need a very reliable, quality engine with easy access parts.
In the past, when I would go back and forth to Guatemala, I'd always have something in my suitcase, whether it was impellers or rebuilt turbos or aftercoolers,
Yeah, if you're flying,
injectors.
that's right. When you're going down consistently, you fill your bags with parts or
Yeah.
equipment.
I used to leave all my clothes there thinking I'd never have to bring bags again, but never happened.
Fishing in Guatemala is the most important thing is it's consistent. Obviously, we have our good days, raising 50, 60, 70, or 100. Those are great days. But consistently, our bad days are good compared to anybody else or anywhere else. To us, seeing, a dozen fish is slow. Where else in the world can you say that? You see a dozen billfish in a day, that's great. For us, seeing a dozen is slow. We're looking for something else. We're always looking for the better bite. We're looking for 20, 30, 40 days. It's good fishing. Whether it's slow for us, it's always considered good.
If you go any place else in the world, and you're bringing customers, who's going to not catch a fish? Whereas in Guatemala, everybody's going to catch fish. Everybody's going to have shots at catching lots of fish, and it's just not the way it is at other places in the world. I mean, we all fish St. Thomas for blue marlin, and August, September, and all. And it's great, but if you go there for a week, you might catch a couple. If there's four of you, if there's four anglers on the boat, somebody's not catching marlin. And in Guatemala, if you go there, sailfish, everybody's catching fish.
Well, and that everybody's catching fish brings up fly fishermen, brings up families. If you got kids, that attention span You know, that's the way kids are, lower attention span. But the thing is, you want to bring them into the bill fishing world, teach them a little bit. Guatemala is a place to bring them.
Mike's fished all my kids from the time that they were, gosh, 4 or 5 years old. I think the youngest one was at the time, and you know, they that was kind of the barometer of how I judged the captains. If they weren't good with families, with teaching kids and everything, they didn't get invited back the next season to run a boat. So, testament to Mike that here for.
It's a great place to teach people how to bill fish, because you miss fish, you catch fish, don't worry, we're going to see more.
And I think we always talked about getting people to come down there to like warm up for a tournament or something like that. You know, unfortunately, people haven't taken advantage of that opportunity. But you know, if you know you're fishing a tournament in 2 weeks,
right?
If I could go down to Guatemala the week before
and get your shots,
you know, fish 3 days, you're probably going to get more shots than you're going to get in the tournament you're fishing.
Yep. And you'll see a spectrum of fish too. Sometimes we have finicky fish, sometimes we have aggressive fish. Obviously you hope for aggressive, but you get that spectrum, so you can make your adjustments. You know, you get some finicky fish, you can tell the guys, hey man, hold the bait longer, you know, or pull it away from them a little bit. That all adds into their memory bank, and then when they're ready for a tournament, you see a different fish, they're ready for it. It's a sport just like anything else. You have to practice to do well in the game. The only way you're going to practice if you get on the field and you do it more and more,
right?
It's the
ultimate spring training. Spring training grounds.
Guys that are fly fishing, you go somewhere and you know, maybe you're going to see one bill fish in a day and you're going to throw to a fly to it. I mean, you're going to be pretty, you know, nerves are going to be driven here, or in Guatemala. A client misses a fish, I said, don't worry, you're going to get another shot. Half the time, or the majority of the time, when I'm downstairs briefing the guys, explaining how to fly fish, we raise a fish. They catch a fish. Just the other week I had a fly fishing guy, and he asked me, as I'm downstairs, what happens if we raise a fish right now? I says, well, we're going to catch it then. I'm going to help you out. So in that first half hour, as I'm downstairs talking to him, we raised the fish, and he caught his first bill fish on fly. So it's that consistent good fishing brings other things. Kids, brings fly fishing into our realm. So the tackle that we use, I mean, it has evolved. I think originally TLDs was a tackle, then Shimano Tironis.
Yes. Little bit faster, same.
Right. Actually,
that body
there you go.
As a TLD, and the reason we did TLDs back then was because all the mates could take apart
right.
a TLD blindfolded and put it back together, and so it's just because we were very, very hard on equipment. You know, I mean, typical boat's gonna see 2,000 billfish in a year.
Reliability is most important, but once you get a reliable tackle, you want something fast retrieve, good drag, obviously, light. There's always some company coming out with a new one. Wes Ziegler has a new reel that is very good, light, reliable, fast retrieve. Fly fishing, it's the technology with fly reels and fly rods have increased quite a bit probably in the last 10 years. I've seen a big change, and there's a lot of good companies, very reliable, good drag, light reels.
I think Mike and the Intensity have been the proving ground for a lot of
actually there's
higher end fly reel companies.
Right. There's been a couple fly reel companies that are big now, big money guys, that they test everything in Guatemala. Again, because you get your opportunities. There's a bunch of fish. I remember having a guy, I'm not going to name which which reel it is, fly reel, but he actually hooked a blue marlin. This guy was in the process of making this reel, and we hooked the blue marlin, and as I'm backing up, full throttle reverse, I get this 300-pound blue marlin right next to us, and we have all this slack in the fly line like we do, and the mates, myself, are screaming at him, reel, 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 reel. He's reeling, and then he stops reeling, so we start hollering at him, reel. He puts his hand up, and he's got the handle of the reel in his hand, so it basically came. So in that moment, he learned a little bit about his reel, and so now they do a reverse thread or something like that. But anyway, we have the opportunities in Guatemala for billfish, so reel companies can learn what they need to do and what they can change. Now that company's pretty successful in selling that fly reel. Typically, if I get someone, a new group or a family or anything like that, and they show up, generally they're gonna pick conventional fishing, light tackle. We'll probably start out, I'll come downstairs, I'll explain everything. So the mates might start off hooking fish, but I always say you need to jump in. At some point, either the first day or the second day, they need to start hooking fish. They're gonna start missing fish and backlashing and sancocho and all those things. And hopefully by the second or the third day, they've caught a bunch of fish, and the final step is switching over to the fly. If they feel comfortable at some point, but you always want to progress, do something better, get more enjoyment out of it. And if they can do it in 3 days, go from catching fish to hooking your own fish, and then the final day would be the best way would be catching a billfish on the fly. Even the best of anglers are still learning how to hook fish. I don't think you catch all your fish, do you?
No.
So
I think,
every
as I
day.
say, everybody always talks about how many fish they catch.
Yeah.
But when we talk about tournaments and we fished a few tournaments together, it's not about how many you catch, it's about how many you miss or how many you lose, because that's the difference between a really good tournament team and a mediocre tournament team. I remember one time we went down and we actually fished a Florida Caña tournament in Nicaragua. And Mike and I were anglers, and it was a 2-day tournament, and we ended up, the first time we ever fished that tournament, and we won the tournament, and we had a lot of people upset with us because here are these guys coming up from Guatemala, down from Guatemala, in this little old boat, and fishing against these big boats that you see all around us now, and with all the modern technology and everything else.
That was on the rum line.
It was on the rum line.
On the Gamefisherman.
Gamefisherman.
Right.
And we ended up winning that tournament. And then the next year they made it a much bigger money tournament than it was that year.
Yeah.
I think we made enough to cover our expenses in that tournament.
That was a good tournament.
That was a lot of fun.
Are there any other tournaments that you remember that kind of stand out in your mind, or?
Actually, another tournament with Jim. I think it was you and Jake. The Jake Jordan Invitational, I believe it was.
Fly tournament.
Yeah, that was the first.
That would have been the first one.
Was the first one?
But
I know it was a big deal because
yeah.
you guys, with Chip and Nick, they caught.
Oh, that's right.
You remember that?
We had some world famous fly fishermen there fishing against us, and we went out. And, I think one of the things, obviously when we go out in a tournament, we're taking it very seriously, but it's it wasn't like $100,000.
Oh, it's not big money, but
like
it's prestige. But when it comes to fly fishing, there's prestige.
Yeah, yeah. We want the it's Guatemala is one of those places where the best fly fishermen on the dock That's the badge of honor.
Right.
A lot of places where if you tell a charter boat you want to go fly fishing, they're like, we got to do that.
Well, if you catch a whole bunch on fly and you catch a whole bunch on bait, one boat catches a whole bunch on bait, one boat catches a whole bunch on fly. The guy on fly is the one who did better.
You're never gonna catch as many as the guy on bait is gonna catch. At least you shouldn't. You know, law of averages is gonna favor the guys fishing bait. Usually because they got more lines in the water. You know,
You're gonna get
fishing, we're catching one at a time.
Well, yeah, you get one at a time, but also you're bringing the fish to the back of the boat. You're hooking the fish basically at your feet.
Yeah, when we're fly fishing,
and then you
no
got
lines have hooks.
direct. Yeah, you're teasing.
Fly line.
Yeah, exactly.
Teasing everything in.
And you got a direct drive reel, 1-to-1 ratio. You know, so it's not only is it you got to see aggressive fish, but then once you hook them, you know, you're limited to how much pressure you can put on them and all that stuff. But anyways, we did good in that tournament.
Yeah.
I believe we won that tournament.
I think we might have purposely gotten second place because we were kind of like the sponsors of the tournament.
We won that tournament.
We won that one?
Yeah, we won that tournament. You know, it was between it was us and the Old Reliable.
Yeah.
And they caught a blue marlin the last day, but we had more points than them.
Yeah.
In the
Marlin was like 500 points and a sailfish was 100.
Right.
So they got a blue. I mean, he's talking about maybe the best fly fisherman in the world, Nick Smith.
Well, Nick and Chip, they fish together. They've been fishing together for years.
Yep.
When you get a captain and crew and anglers that all three of them fish together for more than 10 years, everything becomes real easy.
Yeah.
You know.
I can tell you one of the best days I had with Mike was actually about the one that got away. We were trying to catch. We were fly fishing, and so we'd always have a separate fly rod for blue marlin, ready at the ready. And the difference was the blue marlin fly rod would have the drag back all the way off to like a pound and a half of drag. And
drag would be less, a little bigger fly, bigger hooks.
And presenting a bigger profile in the water for the fish to see. And like a sailfish rod, we would have 6 to 8 pounds of drag.
5 to 6.
5 to 6.
Yep.
And so a marlin comes in, and I didn't bother to switch over to the marlin rod. I have the sailfish rod in my hand. But I figured, no big deal. Well, turns out to be pretty big fish. I think it was like 400 pounds, which for Guatemala is a really big blue marlin. And I think that's
we get excited.
The world record on the fly was 280 pounds. Oh, it still might be that.
It's still
20 pounds.
Yeah, no one's beaten that.
And I just remember that, the fish is coming in, pretty aggressive, and Mike throws the boat into neutral and yells cast. And the fish, as I cast, the fish came all the way under the boat and turned around underneath the boat and went back out. And I'm standing at the transom looking over at this blue marlin, and it just kept, the tail never came. That's how big it was. I'm like, oh boy, this is not going to end well. And that thing ate the fly. I mean, I didn't have to do anything. It just totally hooked itself. And I was not fast enough to back off the drag. We hooked them, fought them for like a minute and a half. Had a couple of great jumps, and then it just sounded down to like 300 feet and came right back up and snapped the leader. But
you got the best part out of them.
Yeah.
The bite is on fly is bar none the best thing.
I mean, you're talking about a 400-pound marlin all lit up, just crushing your fly 20 feet behind the boat. It was one of the cooler things ever. So that was the one that got away. We got a couple of one that got away stories though.
I understand you guys get into some shenanigans at some of the tournaments that might involve live mammals?
The story's still kind of blurry because obviously we're shenanigans and tournaments. A few cocktails are involved. But yeah, I did, I don't remember which tournament, but Jim was involved. And somehow I showed up to the boat, showed up slightly late. And everybody's staring at me at the dock. I get on the boat and I hear noises from the head, which the door is shut, which shouldn't be shut if no one's in there. And there was a live pig in the head making some noises. Yeah, definitely using the head because it was messy, messy in there. All I know is I looked at the mates and I said, "Get rid of whatever that is," and everybody's laughing. And I don't know, you know you were definitely involved in that.
Yeah, no, we put
that pig.
We knew, yeah.
In the boat. I owned the boat at that point, by the way.
Mike
just to let you know. You know, he
boat.
owned the boat previously, but he doesn't put pigs on his boat. But he puts a pig once I own it.
But it was all in good fun, and it made for good stories to tell back after the day was over. And the clients were happy.
Right.
That was
It was a show.
Not to upset them. I think that was the previous year we ended up putting a live piglet, shaved pig, on the back of the boat called the Allure, which is owned by a bunch of guys from Texas. And they had a tough time getting that pig off the boat. And it was all good fun. And at the end of the day, when we all met back at the dock, rather, and they all were like, "Oh, Jim, we would have done it different. We would have, we're from Texas. We would do everything bigger." Oh, okay. So that gave me the idea. That was like laying down the challenge. So we decided that I had our lodge manager get a horse and put a live horse in their room. For the next day, when they came back in at the end of the day, they opened the door to their room up, and there's a horse. They're greeted by a horse, full-size adult horse.
I just wonder how do you get a horse into a room?
I don't know how they did it.
I'm not like
I don't want to know.
Cowboy or nothing, but how do you do that?
It was one of the things about our manager back then. He never disappointed to. You could almost like lay down the gauntlet of the challenge, and he would come through. Whether it's getting piñatas made up in dressed just like one of our clients.
There's been alligators or crocodiles in showers.
Yeah.
Chickens, pigs.
Having the police come and arrest.
Yeah.
All as a
joke.
As a joke.
Right.
It's not a real arrest, but unbeknownst to the
client. Until
afterwards.
He
figured it out pretty quick. Yeah. But it was a guy who came down and fished with Mike actually, 5 times a year.
Right. Yeah, Kirk would come down.
Still comes down.
Yeah. Actually, he's coming down next week.
No.
Or this week, actually.
There you go.
Monday, I believe.
He would have to be your best client, your longest client.
Consistent, right? Yeah. Every year. I don't think he's missed a year.
And he actually started coming down to Guatemala before I.
Right. He was part of one of the records. I think they caught.
That's right. When the record was 27 or 26
or. Somewhere in the 20s on the Magic.
Which was another game fisherman down there. Magic was a 30-foot game fisherman. Right. First boat to catch 2,000 in a year.
Right.
In the world.
And one of the years, Kirk caught 34, 35 on fly, on intensity. Didn't beat your record. 50, was it?
57.
57.
That was a pretty cool day. But one of the things about bill fishing is that we're all very numbers oriented, and it's we keep great track. Actually, because of the conservation aspect, we keep track of how many fish we raise, how many fish that actually bite and how many we catch. So that's why I said before that the Magic was the first boat to catch 2,000 in a year. But your boat, the Intensity, there is no boat on the planet Earth that has caught as many billfish as the Intensity has.
Right, and that's to the credit of the boat and the previous captains. I mean, there's been a lot of big captains that
some of the best captains in the
previous
world.
To me, and it's been from conception to now. It's been fishing hard every year. So it's
well, it's been great captains and great crews. You really got to for a boat to fish hard consistently for a long season is a real testament to the crew, because they have to keep the boat running, they have to keep the crew happy. You got to keep the boat in good shape and the tackle in good shape. When you're catching 2,500 billfish a year, you go through a lot of line. I think we figured out one year how many.
You better be ready the next day.
Yeah.
There's
exactly.
no, let's rig it in the morning. It needs to be done already.
I think we figured out one time how many, the amount of line that we went through in a season, how many times it could wrap around the earth. And it was actually many times.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
Well, when fishing's good, they're changing line every day.
Yeah.
And
being a charter boat, you're getting a lot of inexperienced clients that's backlashing.
Backlashing, yeah. Hey, but it happens. That's part of the learning experience, right?
Yeah.
I've had a backlash or two in my time. I'm sure you've had.
I've had plenty of them.
We don't talk about it too much, but.
No, but we all get that little blister on our thumbs, and
That's when you learn how to ride a bike. You
gotta fall down.
You fall down and cut your knees up. Here you fall down and you.
Well, that's kind of the great part about fishing on your boat and with you and where it is that you get to make all those mistakes.
Right.
And
you don't feel bad about it because you're going to see a fish.
Yeah.
And you'll see another one. It's not your only opportunity.
So most tournaments with the billfish category, even here, have fallen in line with IGFA rules with the circle hooks, and you kind of were one of the captains that have pushed for that.
Well,
because of Guatemala or
those IGFA circle hooks, I think that was actually previous to me coming down to Guatemala. Actually, Ron Hamlin, my brother, Jim. I remember fishing in Hawaii previous years and asking questions about, catching fish or catching marlin on a circle hook. So when I showed up, it was basically everybody was using circle hooks. And that was 15 years ago. And now as time has gone, kind of the world's sport fishing has listened. And it's the popular way to catch billfish on, is with a circle hook.
Well, we pushed.
And it works better. If you do it right, it works better. But you just need to learn how to do it. And it's a little bit different, but if you do it right, you catch more billfish, and it's better for the fish because 90% of the time or more, the hook is in the corner of the mouth rather than the gut, gills, or eyeball, or wherever that J hook will sit. Circle hook is designed to go in the corner of the mouth. So conservation-wise, it's a good thing.
And you technically kind of grew up where that was invented.
I know. Hawaii, the circle hook, it was native Hawaiians used circle hooks. And it was designed because it was a self-hooking. You don't have to hook the fish. It will hook itself, but it ends up in the corner. So it went from being used to catch more fish because it hooks itself, so you can set up lines off the reef and let it sit by itself, And yes, it hooks the side. Now it's used because where it ends up, which is in the corner mouth. So it went from catching more fish, that was why it was designed, to conservation, because it's, you know, better for the fish. So. But yeah, Hawaiians designed the circle hook, and now Guatemala and the rest of the world uses circle hooks for.
In Guatemala, it's the law.
It is the law. Yep. We can't use a J hook with a bait. We can troll with a J hook, but any sort of bait needs to be a circle hook. It's a good thing.
What's the best season to fish in Guatemala?
Best season?
Yeah.
Best season is year round. I mean, there's always fish in Guatemala. Everybody always asks, what time of year, when's the season? In Guatemala, Central America, there is a rainy season, which is summer, and then winter, it doesn't rain. So everybody tends to come down during the winter months, but during the summer months, there's fish. The best time to come down is when you can come down. There's currents and things that happen, but generally year round there's fish. There's some more tunas during the summers and Dorado, my, which will bring the blue marlin, but there's always good fishing.
We've kept extensive records going back to the old Fins and Feathers days, and there's actually been, we've had 50 fish days every month of the year.
Right.
One of my best days was in August. So
I remember, I think my best day was in July. You know, that goes against when people think our season is in January, February, March. Obviously, we have good days in January, February, March, but.
What was your best day?
I think 78 on the conventional and 36, 37, I believe, was on fly. I consider flies better, so that was my best day. Jim's best day was better than my best day, though. When was that?
that was February, March 6th, I believe, right? March 6th, 2013, 14? No, way before that.
6 or 5 or something like that.
Yeah. And we caught, it was in 2006, and we caught 57 sailfish on a fly that day. And another boat right next to us caught 124 on bait. He had 4 anglers in the cockpit. So we caught 57. It was just 2 anglers, myself and Herb Roselle, in the boat. And that became the.
I don't even think you fished
record.
a full day of fishing.
We were going to stop at noon. Our goal was to be the first boat to catch 30, and I think we did that by 11:30 or something like that. So we cranked the music up, had lunch, took a break, poured some rum drinks, and next thing we knew, there was another boat kind of hot on our heels. So we decided to put the lines back out and catch a few more. And we had 57, and we're still back to the dock by 5 o'clock, probably 4:30. So that was a good day. There was another boat on the dock there that day that caught 50 on the fly that day, and as I said, the other boat on the Captain Hook got 124 that day, and I think had the world record for the most ballyhoo rigged in a day, which is like 320. So they caught 124, but they probably missed about 175 on top of the 124 they caught, including one blue marlin, which back then blue marlin were, if you got a blue marlin bite once every 3 days, you were doing well. That was a rarity. Now
that's pretty common.
One of the great days I had on the Intensity was we decided to go out, and we wanted to be the first boat to catch 5 marlin in a day. In Guatemala, had never been done, and we went out and actually caught four blues and a black, and we're back to the dock by 5 o'clock. So that was.
I remember that day because you were angry at me at the end of the day because he didn't get his slam.
We didn't catch a sailfish.
Yeah. Well, there was like, I was like, we have to be back at the dock at 5, and I'm like, okay, we got 10 more minutes. And he looks up and he's like, well, we haven't caught a sailfish. And I'm like, why would we need to catch a sailfish? Because it's like, well, for my slam. And I'm like, oh, now you tell me. And I think we caught a black marlin.
We caught the black marlin last.
Well,
yeah.
we caught 2 blacks, 3 blues, but we caught, and I'm like, so we did not catch a sailfish that day.
No.
We caught 3 blues, 2 blacks, and you were upset at me.
And, you know, and in hindsight, I shouldn't have been upset at him. I should have been upset at myself because it was my boat. You know, if I wanted to stay out
That's right.
an extra half hour, we could have done it. But we pulled the hook away from 15 or 20 sailfish because we were
of course.
focusing on, you know, we didn't want to waste our time with sailfish. We wanted to catch a marlin.
Yeah.
And, you know, we knew they were around, and that was a pretty big deal to do that at that time that we did.
Yeah. It's a long time ago.
You know, Ron Hamlin used to tell me the only record that you can't be broken is being first at something. So we were first at that. I mean, there have been guys that have caught 6 now in a day there, and maybe more than that probably.
Yeah.
But, you know, fads were against the law in Guatemala, so we didn't have the ability to do that back then. And, you know, another probably better day than that is I wanted to go out and catch the most sailfish on 2-pound test in a day. And I don't know what it was, what that number was or is, but I knew that if there's any place that we could do it, it was there. And obviously, you know, everybody says, well, you know, the captain catches the fish and everything. When you're fishing with 2-pound test, that couldn't be more than true. I mean, it's totally trick fishing, totally the captain doing it. I mean, I bought a whole bunch of high vis 2-pound test line, which I think this is going to be great. Well, 2-pound test line, I don't care what color it is. When it comes out of the water, you can't see it. It doesn't matter. We were breaking the line, tying the knots, and we ended up catching 3 or 5 that day. And obviously broke off probably about 15, but it was, you know, pretty cool. That might be the most anybody's ever caught in a day anywhere in the world. I don't know, on 2-pound test. It was fun. It was like, check that square now. And
Yeah, you did that. You're done with that.
yeah. I like fishing light tackle, but 2-pound test is a little extreme. So. I don't think it definitely wasn't good for the boat. It was a hard day on the boat that day, but it was a great day.
Any future plans for the boat, or sticking around Guatemala, or what?
Yeah, I'm in Guatemala. I bought the boat from Jim 12, 13 years ago. No plans in moving on from it. Love the boat, love fishing in Guatemala. So the plans is keep fishing. Why, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
No, and you know, as far as Gamefisherman goes, we're very proud to have that boat there and have Mike, you know, representing us. We have boats in every ocean in the world, fishing in the best places with the best captains, and the Intensity is by far head and shoulders above all the rest in the amount of fish that it's had, and the amount of great captains that have run that boat over the years. I mean, it is kind of a who's who in
it's got some history.
World. It's got great history, and you know, if we were building that boat today, I mean, obviously we're building boats just like it today, a little bigger, but it's the perfect boat.
Over the years, I've done many boat yards, rebuild the engines a few times. I've tweaked things, but I've never changed anything. You know, I've tried to tweak things to make it slightly better, but from the day you sold me the boat to now, it's still the same boat.
Well, it's simple, you know. the key to a charter boat, and therefore any boat, you know, the charter boat world is the testing grounds, the proving grounds,
right,
for boat. But you know, as we said earlier, you got to fish the next day, so it all comes down to being able to maintain, and reliability comes from maintenance.
Right.
So to be able to maintain the boat, to easily, it's crazy to say, but we can easily change the engines.
Well, so I can pull those engines out and put another engine in there in a day and a half.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a big deal.
Right.
When you're making your livelihood on the water. So
bilge pumps, oil pump, you know.
Kind of like all the
transfer
car
pumps,
manufacturers used to use, or still use, I guess, Indy Racing and, you know, the race cars to be the proving grounds or the testing grounds for what they're doing. We get to do the same thing in the boat business by, you know, running. You know, if we get an idea for a boat, we can call Mike or a handful of other captains in the world and say, hey, what do you think of this? You know, here's an idea we had for doing this, for doing that. Our head mechanic at Gamefisherman is a guy that we started in Guatemala,
yeah.
Actually, he's from Nicaragua. I sent him to school when he was working for me. Sent him to come in school.
He did one of the rebuilds for me.
And
late nights. I remember I had to get the boat going, and he was there 2 nights in a row. Boom, got the boat back in the water.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, the customer doesn't want to hear that your boat's not running. You know, they came down here to fish with you. Any plans of putting a seakeeper on the boat or a gyro of any kind?
Well, obviously I'd love a seakeeper, but there's no real need for it. Everybody in Guatemala is fishing in good weather. I mean, there's occasional little weather here and there, but I grew up in Hawaii where it was, you know, between the channels, it was rough weather all the time. Guatemala, there's no need for it. And the boat rides well and any slight chop anyways.
The roughest place in Guatemala is sometimes at the dock.
Right, actually. I've seen the boat rock more at the dock than when we're fishing. Passing boat wake.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of no wake zones in
No.
Guatemala that are
the rules are
enforced or adhered to. See you in Guatemala soon.